Hey, welcome back to A Better Way MD TV. I'm your host and weight loss coach, Dr. Dre. Now, for the past 18 weeks, I've really been focusing my attention on the biology of weight gain and how our hormones affect what we eat, how much we eat, and when we eat. Now, our diets, and that's diet with a little d, over the past 50 years has changed radically. And our biology hasn't been able to keep pace with it, which has resulted in excessive weight gain. Now, for the first time in our history as humans, food has been convenient, easy to get, plentiful, and really calorie dense. And our food is actually being engineered to drive us to eat more and more and more. And it's caused a rapid population-wide weight gain. Now, our skyrocketing rates of weight gain is effectively lowering our life expectancy. When we gain weight, as I've talked to you about a couple of times, we create an inflammatory process, which in essence will end up affecting our organs such as our heart, our liver, our pancreas. And it also can affect our future generations through epigenetics. So there is some good news in all that, in that with abundant food also comes abundant information. And if we know better, then we can do better. Now, early on, I gave you 3 actions that if you follow, it will help you to start your weight loss process. Number 1, eliminate flour and sugar to the best of your ability. Number 2, keep your eating intervals to 2 to 3 times per day. And number 3, stop when you are full. If you do just those 3 things, you will lose weight. Now, if it's so easy to do these relatively simple actions, why don't we just do them? And that's a really good question. Now, if we think back to the think, feel, do cycle that I've mentioned a couple of times, the do part, that's our actions. And our action is, or the do is always preceded by a feeling which is created by a thought. And this is where we can affect change. Once we have understood the cycle, we can use it to our advantage to achieve long-lasting weight loss, even as we go through menopause and even as our hormones are radically recalibrated. Now, I'd like to introduce you to an inconvenient truth, and that's if you are gaining weight or struggling to lose weight, you are overfueling your body. In other words, you are taking in more fuel than your body can use or process. And if we look at this from the think, feel, do cycle, then do is overeating. And we're overeating because of a feeling which is created from a thought. Now, there is a small segment of the population who may have a medical issue that causes them to gain weight, or they are on medications that may cause them to gain weight. So this isn't for you guys. If you think that you either have a medical cause or your medications are resulting in your weight gain, you need to see your doctor. For the rest of us, we are basically emotionally overeating. And this is where I'd like for us to turn our focus over the next 10 weeks or so. We need to evaluate our emotional life and determine why we are letting our thoughts and our feelings create weight gain that we don't want. Now, at this point, you might start arguing with me and say, I don't emotionally eat. And that's because most of us have this idea that emotionally eating is sitting down on the couch, crying over heartbreak, and eating a carton of ice cream and binge watching Netflix. But really, most of us don't do that. Most of us have a typical picture of rush, 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 get to work, do something at work, rush home, kids are yelling, they've got to be somewhere, everybody's hungry, everybody wants something different, and the overwhelm and stress results in our desire to feel better, so we overeat at dinner. Or maybe you yell at your kids, or you make a mistake at work and you feel a sense of shame and you think, I just need to eat a little bite of chocolate, or maybe have a drink of wine to take the edge off. Or maybe the baby kept you up all night and you are exhausted, and you just need that high caffeine, high sugar drink to get some pep in your step. That's really how most of us kind of emotionally overeat. And most of us are so out of tune with our emotional life that it's really tough to figure out that we are actually emotionally eating. So, what I want us to do is to focus on some of the emotions that typically cause us to overeat. And at first, I'm going to focus on the negative emotions, but I want you to understand that positive emotions can also cause us to overeat and overdrink. And we'll deal with those too. But for now, I want us to focus on kind of what I call the top 10 emotions that I see in myself and in my clients. And that's anxiousness or stress, overwhelm, fatigue, sadness, anger, frustration, loneliness, fear, and even boredom. And so for this week, I want you to really focus on what you're feeling. Now, for some of you, that might be kind of hard. And if you're in the medical field, we are so used to compartmentalizing our emotions. It really is sometimes hard to tap into seeing what we're feeling. So what I want you today to do is grab your pen and your pad of paper, and a couple of times a day, I want you to sit down and check in with yourself and say, what am I feeling? Or if you get this sense of like panic or flight or fight reaction in your body, really sit down and go, what is the emotion that I'm feeling? And you can do this a couple of times a day. If you're, a superstar student, you might want to do this a couple of times an hour. You just want to see what your top 5 emotions are that kind of you experience on a day-to-day basis. And you'll see that there tends to be the same ones over and over again, which is a good thing because you'll get to figure out what that emotion is and how to critically look at what thoughts are creating that emotion. Now, I want to be really clear about this. This is not a judgment exercise. This is an exercise that you have to come at with compassion for yourself, openness, curiosity, and interest, and really try to tap into what's going on inside. There's no way to do this wrong. This is about you and it's for you, and it's a good place to start to stop the emotional eating. Now, I'm going to go through those 10 emotions one more time. Write them down if you need to. That's anxiousness, overwhelm, fatigue, shame, anger, sadness, loneliness, frustration, fear, and boredom. And so if you're having trouble figuring out what you're feeling, keep that list with you and look at each of those every day and think, okay, did I feel a sense of shame or embarrassment today? Did I get angry today? Was I frustrated? And kind of think about those situations and what thoughts made you create those feelings. And that's where we're going to start. And I want you to do this for the next week. And I'm really looking forward to seeing you next week and seeing what you figured out and what your top 3 are. And I will tell you, for me, it's anxiousness, overwhelm, and frustration. And so I know what these feel like so well now that as soon as I feel myself tense up, I'm like, okay, am I overwhelmed? Am I anxious? Or am I frustrated? And I can typically narrow it down pretty easily and look at what's going on and correct the thoughts and help those feelings. So that's what I want you to do for the next week. I know it can be kind of scary, but hang in there. I'm here for support, and I will see you next week. All right? Take care, y'all.